shining. I can feel it on my face. I ain't in no hurry now. I ain't caught up in that race. In that race. Every morning I put on my walking shoes. Every morning I put on my walking shoes. And I head out up the highway any way that I might choose. Open up my window now and I take a look around. Ain't got some direction to put my feet flat on the ground. 'Cause I got two rules that I live by, and that's how I get things done. I always take the road less traveled. Always walk, I don't ever run. I don't ever run. Window now and I take a look around. They got some direction to put my feet flat on the ground. I got two rules that I live by, and that's how I get things done. I always take the road less traveled. I always walk, I don't ever run. Got them easy walking. I got them easy walking blues. Got them easy walking. Oh, them easy walking blues. And I head out up the highway any way that I might choose. Oh, I might choose easy walking blues.
This is a poem by Wendell Berry. A lot of you probably know him, you probably know this poem. He's a writer, a poet, an activist for the environment, and just a wonderful person. Anyway, this is called The Peace of Wild Things. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world, and am free.
The messages I've been getting the last 2 weeks have come from this book, Annette, she's here, called The Pivot Year, but I'm not reading it cover to cover. I just opened it up to a page a couple weeks ago and read that, and a page, and to see if there was an inspiration, and usually there is. So I've been at the front, and I've been in kind of the middle. Now I open toward the back, and this is the inspiration for my message today, day 188. It goes like this. Wisdom is the product of self-inquiry, not time, as time is nothing but space that can remain empty and unused. Not experience, as a life gone unevaluated has not been fully internalized, nor more deeply understood. Wisdom is the product of asking the hard questions as well as the simple ones, so that we can figure out really what really matters and what is really worth investing our energy into. So this was another one. We think, because one of my sayings is, sometimes you get older and wiser, and sometimes you just get older. Like that's what this is talking about, right? Is time is just time. It's open space, and it can be empty space. And experience is just experience, and unless it's taken in and evaluated or understood, or there's some inquiry about it, it's just an experience. That's what this is talking about to me. You know, wisdom is the product of self-reflection. I mean, I want us to hear that, because just because somebody's older in your life doesn't make them wiser. What makes someone wiser is this ability, or this interest in self-reflecting, this interest in asking questions, and not to give somebody else answers, but to give your own self that place. Because this quote really presupposes that you want wisdom. It really presupposes that it's important to you to have wisdom. And what is that? What is wisdom? What does it mean to have wisdom? And to me, it means to live life more than on a surface level. To live life more than on the surface level. To have some depth to myself. To have some maybe connection to a deeper understanding. Not just this surface stuff. We live a lot of our lives. I should say I lived a lot of my life on the surface, and I still live some of it on the surface. But wisdom has to do with going deeper, to develop that understanding, that deeper sense of things, and how I fit into that deeper sense of things. I mean, that's what I think wisdom is about. So if we don't examine our beliefs, if we don't examine our language, if we don't examine our actions, if we don't examine our feelings, to me it's as if we are ignoring our own story, ignoring our own life, because we're just going on as if it's not being absorbed in us. Right? It's not being, we don't question those sorts of things. You know, Socrates is said in Plato's apology, of the version of Socrates is defense of himself. He was defending himself against practicing a corrupt mode of philosophy, by the way, is when he said, the unexamined life is not worth living. The unexamined life is not worth living. Wisdom resides, I believe, in that examination of life, that depth. It's not, we have to go out and find wisdom. We don't find it in knowledge. We find the wisdom inside us. We find it what we already exist as wisdom, that depth of knowing. So in this part of my message, I had a bunch of different stories, but as it works out, in like one day, several stories appeared about this exact thing, about wisdom. In Coffee and Conversation on Saturdays, this is exactly what we do. This is exactly why this group meets, is to examine our own life. My life for me, your life for you, and that's what we share, like the examination of that and the questioning of that. And so on Saturday was no different. I brought in this poem that talked about how we don't see the load that people carry. We don't see the stone on someone's back, or the box that they're having a hard time carrying, or whether that's grief or sorrow or whatever it is. We don't see that. If we could see that, the poem basically said, if we could see what each other's carrying, we'd be a lot more kind, wouldn't we? Because we would see the burdens that people are carrying. So that was the jumping off point for our coffee and conversation. And the first story that comes up, the first person that shares something, shares about seeing someone at an airport who's actually carrying this huge bag that you can see, right? It was to me, it was this, incredibly poignant moment. Here was this young girl pushing this baby carriage with this huge suitcase, right? And this person shared about how she saw that and how she decided to help this person. And of course, I made the observation is, and another person might have said, why the heck could you have such a big carry-on when you're pushing a baby carriage? But not this person. This person's like, oh my God, can I help you? Can I help you? And she did, and she made steps to help, and she took her, get on the tram when you're in that kind of airport, you're getting on the tram, even helping her get to her gate, right? Carrying this load, because we can see it. She could see the load that someone was carrying. But here's the interesting part, and here's the question part that came up, and it was this. She was questioning the fact of how good she felt about helping somebody. Like, is that my ego talking about that? Like, is that a good thing that I feel good? Like, she was questioning that. Like, that's the kind of life, like, you might say, well, I don't know why she was questioning that. It was a question for her that came up. Is it my ego that feels good? Should I be patting myself on the back for doing something that was so obvious? Right? That's what's coming up. Don't you know, by the time the hour and a half is done, we come around, we do our final comments, and this person says, you know what? I've decided it wasn't my ego. It's just my natural way of being. You see? Otherwise, it was just this experience of walking through the airport and helping somebody out and then going to my gate. But with this kind of questioning, it's much deeper than that. That's wisdom. That's wisdom. Asking a question to allow the answer to come to me. You see how that works? You see how that works? There was somebody else I talked to this week who was relaying the story of, and it was surrounding fear. Like, my worst fear came true, Paula. My worst fear came true. We talked for a little while about it. And that's the question. It's like, what about this? And she did these steps to take care of some of the issues that happened, right? She took care of this and took care of that to make sure this wasn't going to happen and put things in order. But the question remained, was that, what is this fear about in me? Why are my feet taken out from under me when this happens? Like, what is that about? The next person wouldn't have thought a minute of it. But me, like, I'm here. What about that? Like, asking that question to understand and allow the wisdom to come up in me. Allow the wisdom to come up in me. Another person I just talked to last night, later in the evening. And in the last 6 months, her health has changed dramatically. Her health has changed dramatically. From being independent to being dependent in a lot of ways. Dependent in a lot of ways. And we had a conversation about that, and we talked for a while. And her question to herself was, how can I accept this change in my life? Like, how can I accept this change in my life? And to sit there. I'm sure nobody has ever had a change in their life that, come on, we've all been that kind of place, right? One way or another, for one time or another. How do I accept this change in my life? How do I be who I want to be? Like, when we ask those kinds of questions and sit with those questions, we have the opportunity for wisdom to rise up in us and give us the answer. No one outside of us. I didn't give either one of these people any answers about anything. Yes, I listened. But the wisdom's going to come from inside. The wisdom's going to come from inside. Some of you know I was on a writing retreat back in April, and the poet John Rodell gave us these writing prompts in the form of questions. In the form of questions. And most of these writings I haven't shared because they're very personal. But I want to share this with this topic because I feel compelled compelled to do that. The question is this: what did I used to be that I'm not anymore? Yeah, that's a pretty good question, isn't it? I thought so too. You have 6 minutes to... that's the writing exercise. Here's my 6 minutes of curiosity. He says, go, just start writing. Okay, so here's what I wrote. I'm not as scared. I'm not right all the time. I used to be harder. I used to think I had to make everything work out on my own. I used to think I wasn't worthy or important. I used to hesitate more often. I used to be self-absorbed and critical of just about everything. I really didn't know myself. I didn't even think about me until I had cancer. I didn't know who I was. I never really thought about it. I used to dull my senses and sorrow with drugs and alcohol. I cared about other people, but I don't know if I really knew how to care. I used to have more fun. I'm pretty serious now. More introspective. I used to care more about what people thought. I was afraid to disappoint. I used to be smaller. At least that's the way it looks from here. I used to care about stuff I no longer care about, like sports and money and clothes. It all matters, I guess. It brought me here. That's something, right? It's I.
Wow.
6 minutes. Just 6 minutes. But to ask a question. Like, I never would have, I wrote it down. And I look at it every once in a while. And I think, too, it's not just that. That was 6 minutes of curiosity, a reflection on my life. So what I'm suggesting to you is that these questions don't have to be big philosophical questions, or they can be. But what makes you wise is not how old you are or how much time you spent, but how you answer those questions and how you let wisdom rise up in you. That's what it's about. It's pausing. It's another example of the pause. I mean, that writing retreat was 6 minute pause right here, like just write. Just start writing. Don't stop and think, just start writing. But it was a pause from all this out here. Here's something else that I ran across this week. Because I think it's also, wisdom comes out of examining our beliefs about things. Here's a quote from Mr. Rogers. See if anything about this you can relate to. He says, for years people have said, don't cry, to other people all the time. And all it has ever meant is, I'm too uncomfortable when you show your feelings, so don't cry. I'd rather them say, go ahead and cry. I'm right here with you. Like, what do you believe about that? And what you were taught? What makes, if you're uncomfortable with people showing their emotions in front of you, then ask yourself the question, what makes me uncomfortable about this? It's not about them crying. It's about my comfort. Right there. It's about what it means. How often are young men taught that crying is weakness? We teach it to them. We teach it to each other. Maybe not. There's not a judgment about your answer to this stuff. There's not a right and wrong thing to this kind of inquiry. It's just to know something more about yourself and decide if that's who you want to stay being. That's what it is. You know, what causes that discomfort in me? I've cried many times up there. I'm so happy when y'all don't run up here and try to fix it. It's just me crying. It's me feeling the way I'm feeling. There's not a right or wrong to it. There's not a right or wrong to it. There's not a judgment to it if you find yourself, yeah, that's me. I'm the first one out of the room. As soon as someone does this, I'm gone. I don't want to be in that. Sometimes it's around death. Sometimes it's around people having confrontations. I don't like confrontations. Who likes confrontation? Well, maybe there are people who do. But why do I run from it? Why is it something I'm not willing to stay with? Why am I not able to stay in my discomfort about that? That's an opportunity for wisdom when I ask myself those questions. I want to tell you about Jeff Skoll. Jeff Skoll made his money, I think, starting with eBay way back in the late 1990s. And in 1999, he created the Skoll Foundation. The Skoll Foundation was formed to build a sustainable world of peace and prosperity for all. The purpose of the foundation is to catalyze transformational social change by investing in, connecting, and championing social entrepreneurs and other social innovators who together advance bold, equitable solutions to the world's most pressing problems. I know that's a mouthful. But it's these people who are they're focused on this social transformation. And once a year they get together. By invitation only. By invitation only. You can't just go, right? By invitation only, because he wants these innovators to be together to look at these what they're doing and to share their ups and downs and to share their experiences. And back in 2024, 1,500 people gathered, and they were in these big forums, and they were in coffee shops, and this is one of the questions they answered. So they're doing all this like international big work, and this is the question one of the questions they answered. How do you keep calm and carry on in a world full of crises? Good question for you too, by the way. How do you keep calm and carry on in a world full of crises? I want to read you some of their answers. The first one is from Julian Gerhardt. He's the co-founder of and director of a nonprofit organization. His vision is to build a better education that prepares young people for solving real-life problems. So he has an online platform that talks about civic issues and financial literacy and critical thinking and mental health. I mean, the man is busy, and he's young, right? He's young. So how does he keep calm and in a world filled with crises? So what I do is that I have a journal. Yay, I have one too. No, but here, I have a journal, and I write my small successes in that journal. And it could be anything. It could be one student coming up after our workshop and telling us that he loved the workshop. A small thing, but it's very heartwarming. So here's this young-ish man doing this work. This is how he stays calm. When I say calm and carries on in a world filled with crises. Listen to this. Irma Sitopol is an environmentalist and a human ecologist, and she believes that anybody anywhere can play an active role in shaping a more resilient future. She helps communities specifically that live in suburban and rural areas to become stewards of change. She does this through her work as the Women's Earth Alliance's Southeast Asia Program Director. Here's her advice. She says, so my advice to be calm and carrying on would be to identify some small things, some small objectives that you can really focus on. Are you getting a thread here and a theme? Here's Rana Dajani. She is an associate professor of biology and biotechnology at the Hashemeti University in Jordan. She is the authority on genetics of Circassian and Chechen populations in Jordan. Her focus is on genome-wide association studies concerning diabetes and cancers on stem cell research. Yeah, you know? Here's her advice. Here's how she answered that question. Every human being is unique. Nobody's DNA is like anyone else's who has ever lived, who lives today, or who will ever live in the future. So you're special. And because you're special, you have a special perspective on life. So whatever bothers you, go try and find a solution yourself. Trust your gut feeling. See, I'm saying trust your wisdom. Trust your gut. And don't worry about changing the world. It's those small steps that make a difference. The question is, what can I do now? Small things. Gabriel Marmontini. He is a young man. I mean, a young man who created this web platform, to strengthen Brazil's democratic culture by offering free, simple, nonpartisan education for anyone. This is what he done. Here's him. He looks like he's about 16. He's probably in his 20s, but he said, you need to have discipline and put in the effort. He said, so why have I been successful? See, he asked himself these questions. Have you noticed these questions peppered in here? It's because I've been disciplined for 9 years. It's not because my mind is illuminated or my IQ is really high. It's not. It's just that I do things consistently. Leaders, 1,500 only from the world invited. This is their advice. One more. Bernard Chira is a renowned leader in the innovation, assistive technology, and entrepreneurship for disability inclusion in Africa. He's passionate about being a success catalyst and a bridge for startup teams and venture founders using the power of technology and entrepreneurship to change the world. Have you written down your goal lately? That's right. He said this. I would say to you, be very open to learning and be flexible to actually changing your mind. You can always get new ideas. I mean. So how does this tie into the wisdom thing? First of all, they're asking themselves questions. And the second thing about wisdom that I have come to understand this week is when somebody else has great advice, take it. Like, take it. Be open to someone else's advice. These people who are doing these long sentences that I'm reading about their goals and what they're interested in, and what did the first three say? Focus on the small things. Is there anybody among us who is able to do that? Like, focus on the small thing. Focus on that. Isn't there wisdom there? How do you keep calm and focused in a crisis? Think small. Ask a question. Apply these things to your life. Like, do the small things with great care, right? Do it consistently. Do it consistently. And don't be afraid to change your mind, right? All wisdom-based, all in my view of how it came together for me this week about wisdom. Wisdom. You all have it. We all have it. There's no pot somewhere that needs to be divided up amongst us and know somebody's going to be short. It's not true. You have it. I have it. We have it. I know the admonishment in the United States of America is think big! But maybe we've missed the point. Maybe wisdom starts when we take the moment and the pause and do it right here. All right, so let's take that into meditation for just a little while this morning. Take a deep breath in. Wow. Wow. Wisdom doesn't come from time. Wisdom doesn't come from experience. Wisdom reveals itself through self-reflection. Wisdom reveals itself through those of us who are courageous enough to ask the question, to stick with it, however small it is, to know that I can change my mind, that I can come to a conclusion that I couldn't have come to if I just hadn't sat with it. Wisdom, not with age, not with time, not with experience, but with self-reflection. We'll just sit for a little while together this morning. Yes, wisdom is the product of self-inquiry, not time, as time is nothing but space and can remain empty and unused. Not experience, as life gone unevaluated has not been fully internalized, nor more deeply understood. Wisdom is the product of asking the hard questions, as well as the simple ones, so that I can remember what really matters and what is really worth investing my energy into. Amen. Deep breath in. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. May all beings be filled with loving kindness. May all be well. May all be peaceful and at ease. May all be happy. All right, love you all. See you next week.